Hello and welcome. Welcome to Yahusha's Call with yours truly, Myra Waiters. I want to welcome you uh, with the love of Yahusha. I want to take time to let you know we're going to do a series, and this series is entitled Raised Up to Rule. Raised Up to Rule. And in order to set the proper setting to get you to see what Yah wants to speak into his people today, I need to take you on a journey. I'm going to take you on a journey, and it's going to begin in the book of Jasher. And for those who have that book, please get it out. And if not, you can go online and get a PDF of it. But we're going to be, in the 80th chapter. Then we're going to move on in the series. And by the time I'm finished with this 3 to 4 part series, I believe what will have been established is the panoramic view of Yah's eternal plan for his people. And you don't want to miss not one in this series. All right. Let us go to Jasher, and let us start in the 80th chapter. Now, I'm not going to read the whole chapter. It's very lengthy. But I'm going to begin with something that my people, Yah's people, the Yasraelites need to hear at this turbulent moment in our history. We've heard of the mass shootings there in El Paso and there in Dayton, Ohio, and even here in California during the Garlic Festival, and also many other things that are going on that we're not even privy to get the information for. Our people are dying. Our people are suffering. Our people are being targeted. And they believe it's for the color of their skin. I want to try to correct some of that today. It does have something to do with that, but it has more to do with your calling and really who you are. And once you understand who you really are, then you can begin to take the precautious steps, know how to pray, know where to go and how to carry yourself. Because you see, Yah's people, they do perish for the lack of knowledge. And once you have knowledge, you have your freedom. Freedom does not come from man. Freedom comes to the Yasraelites from Yahuah himself. Through the blood sacrifice of Yahusha. I want to begin the book of Jasher because I want to show you something that you may not be aware of. And for those of you who are aware of this, then this is just confirmation. Yah gave me chapter 80 to bring out some facts. Now in this book, it's dealing with the plagues of Egypt, or Messerim, whatever which one you want to call. And in the plagues of Egypt, there's a distinction. There's a distinction, and his name is Yahuah. And he is the one that is sending the plagues. And there's a reason he's sending the plagues, because Pharaoh's heart is hardened against the people of Yasrael. And therefore, Yah wants to show his mighty hand, not only to Egypt, but to his people and to this entire world. And to this very day, it has done just that. Why am I bringing this up? Because we have some people out here, because of the ignorance of understanding who they are, they're like ducks in a row. And we're not taking things seriously to preserve our own lives. First of all, before I start reading, I want to also stretch out to say we are praying for those that are suffering behind these mass shootings, no matter who you are or what you look like. we offer our prayers and sympathy. This is in no way uh, agreeing or sympathizing with those who want to harm others, but those that have been harmed. And we are yet praying. And part of that prayer is that Yasserel will wake up. They will gain the knowledge that will set them free. For the 400 years have been served. Our time has been served. Now, what is going on is just blatant ignorance because you're kings and you just don't know it. Let's get into the study. Let's go into a little bit of the first couple of verses, then we're going to skip around. For those who don't believe that Jasher is a part of the Holy Scriptures, set-apart Scriptures, let me give you two scriptures that will denounce that. For once and for all, Jasher is a book mentioned in the Bible. It is mentioned in Joshua 10:13, and is mentioned in 2 Samuel 1:18. Please know that this is a book that should never have been taken out of the Bible. All right, so let's, with that in play, let's move. And at the end of 2 years, Yahuah again sent Moses to Pharaoh to bring forth the children of Yasserel and to send them out of the land of Egypt. I want you to know, when Yah shows up to do something for his people, mayhem begins. And this is what we're seeing in this day and in this hour. And Moses went and came to the house of Pharaoh, and he spoke to him the words of Yahuah, who had sent him. But Pharaoh would not hearken to the voice of Yahuah. Your government will not hear. Your president will not hear. Therefore, Yah has already stipulated these things must come to pass. The plagues must come to pass. And Elohim roused his might in Egypt upon Pharaoh and his subjects. And Elohim smote Pharaoh and his people with very great sore plagues. And I'm not going to read every plague, but I do want to skip down and say that in the 3rd verse, it talks about the rivers of waters turned and the streams turned into blood, or the color of blood. Actually, it doesn't have to mean a person's blood. And I'll show you that as we get into more of the scriptures. And in 4, it says, the 4th verse, it says, and when an Egyptian came to drink and draw water, he looked into the pitcher, and behold, because it had been water, turned into blood. And when he came to drink from his cup, the water in the cup became blood. And when a woman kneaded her dough and cooked her victuals, their appearance was turned to that of blood. Can you imagine that? And when a woman kneaded her dough, it turned into blood. And the 6th verse, and Yahuah sent again and caused all their waters to bring forth frogs. And all the frogs came into the houses of the Egyptians. You notice they're not coming into the houses of Yasserel. And when the Egyptians drank, their bellies were filled with frogs, and they danced in their bellies as they danced when in the river or in the water. And all their drinking water and cooking water turned to frogs. Also, when they lay in their beds, their perspiration bred frogs. Pretty dire. Notwithstanding all this, the anger of Yahuah did not turn from them, and his hand was stretched out against all the Egyptians to smite them with every heavy plague. When the anger of Yahuah has been stirred, you can know that things are going to never be the same again, as his judgments or his plagues are called forth. And they will continue to be called forth, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, sisters and brothers. And they will get worse. We are looking at that time that these things have begun. And I say begun, not going to begin. That's why the violence is growing. That's because Satan knows his hour is coming to a close very quickly. And Yahusha, you are at the top of his list. The 10th verse says, and he sent and smote their dust to lice. Lice became in Egypt to the height of 2 cubits upon the earth, about 3 feet deep. That's a lot of lice. The lice were also very numerous in the flesh of man and beast and the inhabitants of Egypt. Also upon the king and queen, Yahuah sent the lice. So no one in Egypt was escaping this plague. 13, and Yahuah sent all kinds of beasts of the field into Egypt. And they came and destroyed all Egypt, man, beast, trees, things that were in Egypt. And Yahuah sent fiery serpents, scorpions, mice, weasels, toads, together with others creeping in the dust. I want to go down to the 16th verse. And all reptiles and winged animals, according to their kind, came to Egypt and grieved the Egyptians. Why am I reading this? I'm telling you the things and plagues that are on the earth now and those that are getting ready to come. Because Pharaoh will not let us go. He would rather fight and kill us than let us go. And when I say let us go, I don't mean just somebody standing in the street say go. See, I think now the shout is, go back where you came from. Well, there's a serious problem with the Yahusha, because you see, we didn't bring ourselves over here. So you'll have to send us back. And when we go back, we're going to come out with great wealth. Yeah, we're going to have great wealth. Our labors will be paid for with interest when we do leave. Let's continue reading. So we went and we found out in 17 the fleas, the flies. You haven't seen the amount of fleas and flies. You think you've seen a lot now? People are screaming. Some of these mosquitoes they've got are so huge. They're dangerous, not only because of disease, but they're so huge. People that are allergic to these things. We've got all kinds of bacteria in the oceans and waterways. People are getting flesh-eating diseases. Wake up. This is upon us now, not coming. And it's just going to grow worse. Greenland has melted down. The earth is cracking up. Eighteenth verse. And the hornet came upon them and drove them away, and they removed from it into their inner rooms. Yet it pursued them. Couldn't find anywhere to hide. The 19th verse. And when the Egyptians hid themselves on account of the swarm of animals, they looked their doors after them, and Elohim ordered the Solonath. Now I want to explain that word. It's Sulanuth, which was in the sea. Underline that in your Bibles, in your scriptures. To come up and go into Egypt. Now, let me explain that. A Sululaneth. What is a Sululaneth? It is a spirit. People looking for a monster. Don't look for a monster. It's a monster, but it's a spirit. Do you know that everything that lives has a spirit of some kind? Water has its own spirit. The air has spirit. The trees have spirit. The fish have spirit. The goats and the cows have spirit. Why does everything have spirit? Because spirit created everything. The spirit of Yahuah Yahusha himself created everything you see. So it has to have spirit in it. It cannot live without spirit. So what he's saying is he's going to call for the spirit of the sea, who takes orders directly from Yahuah, to come up and go into our second Egypt, where we are right now. But you need to understand this so you can help others to know why these things are going on here. And for those who believe this global warming, I don't disagree. But I know Yah can use global warming or any other means he wants to bring about his word. 20, it says, and she had long arms. In other words, this spirit was far-reaching. That's all it means. 10 cubits in length of a cubit of a man. This thing overpowers men, is what it's saying. It's greater than what a man can stop or cease from happening. In other words, it is out of man's control, totally. And she went upon the roofs and uncovered the rafting and flooring. And that hurricane, that wind that comes through in these mighty tornadoes takes roofs off tops of it. You can see them flying in the air. Those arms are stretched out, and they are peeling roofs off like the tops of tin cans. All over the earth it's happening. In different nations all over the earth, as well as here. It goes on to say that she stretched forth her arm into the house and removed the lock and the bolt and opened the houses of Egypt. There was no place safe. Everything was coming down and being destroyed. Afterward came the swarm, in verse 22, of animals into the houses of Egypt. And the swarm of animals destroyed the Egyptians, and it grieved them exceedingly. Notwithstanding this, the anger of Yahuah did not turn away from the Egyptians, and his hand was yet stretched forth against them. And Elohim sent the pestilence, and the pestilence pervaded Egypt. Pestilence aren't just animals or insects or storms. They're diseases, infectious diseases, poison to the soul, to the body. Not only did it invade Egypt people, but their horses and their animals, everything they own, their cattle. And we have cattle dying of diseases. We have all kinds of diseases. Our poultry, our fish are dying, washing up on the shores, all around us, and within our cities and communities where we have lakes and rivers. They're becoming a place as a morgue for the life that dwells within him. It goes on to say, I'm going to skip down to 27, and Elohim sent a burning inflammation in the flesh of the Egyptians. We've got these flesh-eating diseases. You go out in the water, have a little bit of scratch on, you come back and you're at death's door. They say it's global warming, so be it. But these bacteria are forming out there in these waterways, and if I were you, I'd stay out of them. But that's almost impossible for some people. They just cannot believe it. It doesn't happen to everybody. I'm not trying to throw fear, but you need to be alert and aware of what's going on around you. It says, well, I won't say fear, because we shouldn't fear if we are believers. But those who are not should be in stark fear. I'll put it that way. Which burst their what? Burst their skins. And it became a severe itch in all of the Egyptians, from the soles of their feet to the crowns of their heads. And many boils were in their flesh. You see people with these sunburns, with these big boils on their skin. They've only been out exposed for just a few moments. Skin cancer's on the rise. There's not enough protection in the atmosphere to keep the solar rays from doing the damage that it's doing to the skin of those who are lacking enough melanin. Listen at this. And it became a sore itch. And then 28 says, and many boils were in the flesh, that their flesh wasted away until they became rotten and putrid. Notwithstanding this, the anger of Yahuah did not turn away. Even after all of this, he did not stop the plague. And his hand was still stretched out over Egypt. You know, our word says that he has come nigh. And with him, he brings retribution. And with that retribution comes all types of plagues. There are more than 10 that's going on even right now where we live, here in the United States. But these plagues are all over the earth, where our people have been in bondage, have been mistreated, have been demised, have been raped and murdered. Saw a picture today, 2 police officers on horses with a man handcuffed and a rope around him. I tell people all the time, slavery's not over. And you have to go back and listen to one of my videos on that, where I read the Emancipation Proclamation. But let's go on. And it says, and many boils. Notwithstanding, his anger was not turned away. And 30, it says, and Yahuah sent a very heavy hail, which smote their vines. A hail was so large, and it's happening now as I speak. And broke their fruit trees and dried them up, that they fell upon them. Also every green herb became dry and perished, for a mingling of fire descended in the midst of hail. Therefore the hail and the fire consumed all things. There is coming fire within hail soon. We got the hail. We got the fire separate right now, but they're going to come together and do some horrific things upon this earth. Also men and beasts that were found abroad perished of the flames of fire and of the hail. And all the young lions were exhausted. All your strong men, all those who you look to help you get through things, they're fainting. They don't know what to do. And Yahuah sent and brought numerous locusts into Egypt, the Kasel, the Salom, the Chargal, the Chagol, the locusts, each of its kind. In other words, these are just various species of locusts, grasshoppers, so on and so forth, which devoured all that the hail had left. Whatever it reads here, you have to understand how Yah talks. Because this particular scripture means there's value that's going to be consumed, whether it's your crops, whether it's your cattle, or your bank accounts. Doesn't have to be just animals or just lands. So they had locusts and it consumed. And then 35, and Yahuah turned a mighty wind. A mighty wind where? Of the sea. A mighty spirit. Wind, spirit of the sea, which took away all the locusts, even those that were salted. Because what happened was the Egyptians, I should have read that in 34, the Egyptians rejoiced at the locusts. Why? Because they could consume them. They could actually preserve them in salt and have food. But it says in 35 that this wind took away every one of them. So they had none. So I'm going to stop here. The reason I'm going to stop here is because on the next part 2, I'm going to get into the judgment of unbelieving Yasserel. We see what's happening with the masses that have come against her, the countries, the peoples that have come against us for all of these centuries, all of these millennia, all these years. But let me tell you something. There's a judgment coming to you, Yasarel, and you don't want to miss part 2, because in part 2, that's what I'm going to explain to you, that you also are in danger, great danger, and you need to know it, and you need to know how you can avoid it, because you're going to be judged right along with everybody else if you don't understand these things that we're going to tell you in this series. So you don't want to miss it. And I want to stop right now, and I want to tell you that you are not to be distraught. You are not to lose heart on what's going on, what you're hearing on the news. It's all true that that things are happening in a fast pace, that we're being targeted by hate, white supremacists, the whole gamut, and each other. Some of us are killing each other. But mostly now is this fear thing that's going out. It's a spirit of fear. And in order to avoid that spirit of fear, you need to draw nigh to your Father through Yahusha. Can you do that? Because you're going to need to do that to survive. I want to tell you to tune into part 2. Don't miss it, because I'm going to show you the judgment that's coming to Yasarel as well. Until next time, go with Yahuah. Why do I say that? Because if you do obey his commandments, his Torah, he'll go with you. Until next time, bye-bye.